Okay, how are our stories going to be different than just a good story? So by my standard of the beautiful, a movie like, Anne of Green Gables, or a movie like, In the Bedroom, or a movie like Robin Hood, the original Errol Flynn, these are all beautiful movies. Very well executed. They have a radiance. They're good for us as humans. They have something to say to us. What do we add to that as story? What should kind of be the aura, or the radiance that's going to adhere in a project coming from someone who is a Catholic or a very deeply committed Christian? It seems to me that when you say a Catholic movie, it's going to be beauty plus a certain subtext, right? That we have some things that only we can say as Catholics, that other people can't say with the same conviction. It's not who they are, right? So if you say, well, what are those subtexts, the things that we bring to the table that if we were missing from the culture, nobody else would be saying with the same conviction? And those are the kinds of things we have to kind of zero in on, and then find the way that those things should be in the fabric of our projects. Never state it. If you state it, you lose, because it's for the audience to find it. And that work of the audience, what does this mean? What does this mean? What is this really saying? That's what saves them. It's not telling people the truth that saves them. It's getting them to wrestle with the truth that saves them. So how do we get them to wrestle, to kind of work through our stories to get to the bottom, right? Well, that's about mastery of craft, and there's a lot I can say about that. But I think that from the level of what are these subtexts. So, for example, one of our subtexts that only we say with this kind of real conviction is that you can have what's like an ironic juxtaposition of joy and suffering. We believe that Good Friday is the worst thing that ever happened in human history, and the best thing that ever happened in human history. We hold both of those things at the same time with no sense of contradiction. For anybody else, it's a contradiction or it's a cop-out. We look them right in the eye and say, no, that's how it is, that there is always the possibility of resurrection in every death. That's what we believe. So it seems to me that if it's going to be a Catholic project, that conviction that this death only looks like a death, but it's really the seeds of a resurrection, is going to be pervading our stories. So when people walk away, they go, suffering's not the worst thing that can happen to you. It might just be the doorway into your destiny. That's the heart of the gospel, one of the hearts of the gospel. So think of what would be some others. What are some things that define us, that we believe, that we don't have to give God credit with the Bible quote and the chapter and verse. It just has to be absolutely part of everything we do. So another one is no greater love than to give your life for your friends. This defines us. Another one is human life is sacred. And I don't mean that I mean it in the real, this is something that was made by somebody else and is destined for somebody else. It's precious to that person, and we don't own it. That's us. And you kind of go, I have 6 or 7 of these that I've come up with, that seem to me to be what we bring to the table. And so the question is, when you watch Catholic media today, do those things adhere in it? And I'm going to say no. Too often we talk the whole time about God, but we never really communicate the heart of our message. And the reason is because it's difficult to weave something through a story. Flannery O'Connor said, I've only ever had one agenda in my writing, and that is that grace is out there. I want my readers to feel like grace is out there. So you read her stories, and you get this weird, haunting sense of that people can't escape grace the way they can't escape sin. But she never says it. It's just built in. So we're talking high level of art here, not something you could do in a month with 3 friends who are not trained. I mean, I think that you can't escape the need for story again in the church. I mean, Jesus told stories. He told parables. So why? Because he didn't know the truth? No, because he knew the truth of human nature. So there's a thing about a story where the audience settles in with a kind of glee. We love when the credits open a movie. We love that moment of, I'm going to hear a tale. And Aristotle actually says this comes from two instincts in us, the instinct for harmony and the instinct for imitation, to watch other people do stuff. We want to see how people act. So I think that the thing about story is people's defenses are down. They want to hear a good tale. They open to you. The magical thing that happens in story is that I substitute myself for the main character. In a good story, I become that woman searching her house for the gold coin. I become that prodigal son on the pig farm, filling his belly with the husks for the pigs. I become that person, so I go through whatever they're going through, but I'm safe in doing it, right? And that's the magic of story, is we get to have experience without the risks. And so the idea is to use story in such a way that people will, they'll come to, with the prodigal son, you know what? I had real good meals when I was home with my father. And the idea of just that they'll get there probably before him in the story and say, you need to go home. I mean, who doesn't when you hear the prodigal son? Who doesn't go, buddy, time to go home, right? And it's only because we're trying it on. So I think that's a great example of a story that leads the audience to the next right, sensible, obvious conclusion. And that's what we want to do in catechesis. In evangelization, we want to present them with such a scenario that they go, oh, well, this now I can see it. This makes sense, But they're doing it not in a political framework, which is, the post-sexual revolution climate is everything is politics. It's ruining everything. Everything is politics. Art, the church, family, schooling, everything. So it's very hard to have a conversation with people because they immediately want to define you and dismiss you. What side are you on? Oh, I'm on the other side. And that's why story cuts through that. And I can tell you a story. It's not about whether I'm from a red state or a blue state.